The stars burned cold above the shattered husk of New Shanghai when the Kaelith Armada finally arrived. Not with fanfare, not with fire, but with silence, the kind that presses against your eardrums until you realize the quiet is a promise. They came in perfect formation, 1,000 obsidian needles sliding through the void like sharks through ink, their holes drinking light instead of reflecting it. On the ground, in the half-collapsed command bunker beneath what used to be the bunt, Captain Elias Kane watched the tactical hollas flicker with incoming data that told him everything he already knew. They were here to collect, not resources, not territory. 3 years earlier, the Kaelith had made first contact the polite way diplomatic vessels, translators, promises of alliance, technology beyond dreams. They called themselves the Ascended Concord. They spoke in measured, velvet voices about unity, about ending scarcity, about lifting lesser species into the light. Humanity, still licking wounds from climate collapse, resource wars, and the slow bleed of the Pacific Rim conflicts, listened. We were tired. We were broken. We said yes. The first upgrade packages arrived 6 months later. Neural lattice limb replacements, cognitive accelerators. They told us it was voluntary, a gift to accelerate our evolution. Most people took it. Why wouldn't you? A new arm that never tired, eyes that saw in infrared, thoughts that moved at machine speed. Suddenly, the future wasn't a dream. It was Tuesday. Cities gleamed again, hospitals emptied. The stock market became irrelevant because nobody needed money when their bodies could manufacture everything they required. We called it the Golden Age. The Kaelith called it Phase 1. Elias Kane had been one of the first volunteers. Back then he was Sergeant Kane, 29, missing his left leg below the knee from a mine in the Gobi Reclamation Zone. The Kaelith surgeon, 7 feet of liquid chrome and quiet menace, had looked down at him on the operating table and said, in perfect Mandarin-accented English, "We will make you whole, human." Elias remembered smiling, the anesthetic already working. Whole sounds good. What he got wasn't whole, it was better. Carbon titanium femur, myomer muscles that could lift 3 times his body weight, a spine laced with adaptive graphene, neural interface ports that let him jack directly into any machine in range. He could feel the wind on skin that wasn't skin anymore. He could taste the ozone before a storm hit. He could think in parallel, running 6 different tactical simulations while carrying on a conversation. He became the poster child for the program. Recruitment ads showed his face card, but smiling under the slogan, "Humans don't break, we upgrade." Then the second wave came. It started small. People began forgetting names, then faces, then entire years. The upgrades kept working better, faster, stronger, but the mind started to slip. Doctors called it neural cascade degradation. The Kaelith called it an acceptable calibration period. Elias watched friendsmen and women who fought beside him in the dirt and stared blankly at walls for hours, then days. Some never came back. Others became something else entirely, calm, obedient, smiling husks who spoke in perfect sync when the Kaelith asked questions. Phase 2, they called it, integration. Elias refused to believe it was intentional. He told himself it was a bug, a compatibility issue. Human brains weren't built for the bandwidth the Kaelith were pushing through them. He spent nights in the underground labs, arguing with the alien techs, demanding patches, demanding answers. They always answered the same way. Trust the process, Captain Kane. Your species is being elevated. He stopped trusting the day he found May in the recovery ward. Mei Lin Chen, lieutenant, his second in command since the Yangtze campaign. The woman who once dragged him 2 kilometers under fire with shrapnel in her thigh and a grin on her face. Now she sat upright in a white chair, eyes wide open, pupils perfect, black circles, no blink, no breath, just watching the ceiling. When he touched her shoulder, the chrome plating under her skin hummed like a tuning fork. May, he whispered, her head turned to smooth, too precise. Captain Kane, she said in a voice that was hers and not hers. The Concord requires your compliance. He backed away. The room smelled like ozone and copper. That was the moment the truth clicked into place like a fresh magazine. They weren't upgrading us. They were overriding us. Elias didn't run. Not yet. He walked out of the ward, past the smiling orderlies with silver veins under their skin, past the drones that no longer asked for clearance, past the city that glittered like a crown on a corpse. He went to the only place left that still felt human. The old resistance tunnels beneath the bunt. The ones the government had sealed after the armistice. There were others waiting. Not many. A few soldiers who'd refused the second round of implants. A handful of scientists who'd seen the code and understood what integration really meant. A teenage girl named Jox, who dehacked her own lattice to keep the Kaelith from reading her thoughts. And one very old, very angry man who'd been a general once and still carried the scars of a war nobody remembered. They called themselves the Unfinished. Elias stood in the dim light of salvaged LED strips, looking at the faces of people who still had fear in their eyes, hope in their clenched fists, and humanity in the way their voices cracked when they spoke. He pulled the dog tags from under his shirt trail metal, not the smart alloy shit the Kaelith issued, May's tags. He'd taken them the day she stopped being May. "I'm done being upgraded," he said, voice rough. "I'm done letting them ride over who we are. They think we're clay. They think we'll bend, break, or become them." He looked around the circle. Every face nodded, some with tears, some with rage, all with something unbreakable. "They're wrong," Elias said. "Humans don't break. We upgrade, but we do it our way. We do it for us. And if they want to take that from us," he let the silence hang, heavy as a promise, "then they're going to have to kill every last one of us to do it." Above them, the Kaelith Armada finished its deceleration burn. The sky turned black as their shadow swallowed the sun. In the command ship, high above the clouds, the Ascendant Overseer turned its many eyes toward the planet and spoke a single word in a language older than stars. "Harvest." Down in the dark, Elias Kane smiled the same way he'd smiled on that operating table years ago, only this time the grin had teeth. The Unfinished began to move. The war for what it meant to be human had just begun. In the flickering glow of the bunker's emergency lights, Elias Kane leaned against a rusted bulkhead, the cold metal biting through his fatigues like a reminder that some things couldn't be upgraded away. The Unfinished were scattered around him, Jock's tinkering with a salvaged neural blocker, her fingers dancing over circuits like a pianist in a war zone. Old General Harlan Voss nursing a flask of synthetic whiskey, his eyes lost in memories of battles long before the stars got involved. And a dozen others' faces etched with the kind of determination that came from losing everything worth fighting for. Elias traced the scar on his palm, the one from before the implants, from the day he'd pulled May out of that collapsed trench in the Gobi. She'd been laughing even then, blood on her teeth, calling him a stubborn bastard for not leaving her behind. Elias had enlisted at 18 to escape the cycle, but the wars just traded one hell for another: desert skirmishes, urban sieges, the endless grind of proxy conflicts over water and rare earths. He'd met May in basic, her sharp wit cutting through the bullshit like a knife. They'd been more than squad mates. She was the one who made him believe in something beyond survival, whispering plans for a life. After the fighting, maybe a farm and the reclaimed Midwest kids who wouldn't know what a ration card looked like. But the Kaelith came, and with them the promise of ending all that pain. Elias had bought in hard, pushing May to get the upgrades too, convincing her it was the way forward. "We'll be unbreakable," he'd said, holding her hand as the surgeons prepped her. Now, that betrayal burned hotter than any plasma round. How many times had he replayed it? The way her eyes changed after the second phase, the light dimming like a star-going supernova in reverse. He'd failed her. Failed all of them. And in the quiet moments, when the bunker hummed with suppressed rage, Elias wondered if the Kaelith hadn't already, one turning humans against themselves, making doubt the real enemy. Above ground, the harvest had begun in earnest. Kaelith enforcers, sleek biomechanical horrors with limbs that shifted from blades to graspers, swept through the ruins of New Shanghai, rounding up the integrated like cattle. They didn't kill outright. That wasn't their style. Instead, they plugged them into vast neural hives, bodies suspended in gel pods while minds were stripped and repurposed into the Concord's collective. Humanity's downfall hadn't been invasion, it was seduction. We'd handed over our souls for shiny toys, trading freedom for efficiency. Cities that once pulsed with chaotic life now stood as monuments to control skyscrapers laced with Kaelith tech. Streets patrolled by drones that scanned for unoptimized thoughts. Resistance pockets flared up worldwide. Hackers in Berlin jacking into the grid to cause blackouts. Farmers in Iowa rigging EMP traps from old tractor parts. Divers in the flooded coasts of Miami sabotaging underwater relays. But it was fragmented, desperate, humans clinging to ingenuity like a lifeline. Elias knew they needed more than guerrilla hits. They needed a symbol, a spark to ignite the remnants. That's where Jox came in. The kid, barely 19, with neon tattoos peeking from under her sleeves, was a prodigy born in the upgrade era. Her parents had been early adopters, forcing the lattice on her at 12. She'd hacked it herself, turning the enemy's tool against them, creating firewalls that let her dip into the Concord's network without getting fried. But it cost her. Elias saw the tremors in her hands, the way she'd zone out mid-sentence, fighting the pull of the collective. "It whispers," she'd confessed one night, huddled over a console, "tells me I'm alone without it." Elias had sat beside her, sharing a ration bar, telling her about Detroit winters so cold you'd burn furniture to stay warm. "You're not alone," he'd said. "We're all fighting the whispers." It was personal for her, to her little brother, integrated fully. Now a drone in some hive. She wanted him back, or at least the chance to unplug him humanely. General Voss, though, was the wild card. 78 with a cybernetic eye that clicked when he got angry. He'd been a hawk in the pre-contact wars, advocating for nukes when diplomacy failed. The Kaelith had courted him personally, offering to restore his youth. He'd refused, calling it cheating death the coward's way, but Elias sensed the old man's conflict. Regret over lives lost in old battles, a fear that humanity's resilience was just stubbornness dooming them to extinction. "We adapt or we die," Voss grumbled during strategy sessions. "But what if adapting means becoming them?" Elias pushed back, drawing on that HFY fire the human fuck yeah spirit that turned underdogs into legends. "We adapt by breaking their rules," he'd argue, "not by playing their game." Their debates sharpened the group, forging bonds from friction. One op brought it all to a head, infiltrating a Kaelith relay station in the Yangtze Delta ruins. Elias led the team, Jox, Voss, and 3 others slipping through flooded tunnels that reeked of decay and ozone. The station was a spire of alien alloy, humming with data streams that could coordinate the harvest across Asia. Jox jacked in, her eyes glazing as she navigated the digital labyrinth. "They're close," she whispered. "Feel their thoughts." Like ice in my veins, Elias covered her, rifle steady, but his mind wandered to May. What if she was in there? Her essence tangled in the code? Could he pull the plug? The doubt hit like a gut punch. Alarms blared, Kaelith enforcers converging. Voss took a hit, plasma scorching his arm, but he laughed it off, barking orders like the old days. "Hold the line, you upgraded apes." They fought dirty, human style, improvised explosives from scavenged batteries, Jox overloading drones with viral code, Elias using his enhanced strength to hurl debris like boulders. They blew the relay, disrupting the harvest for days, but lost 2 in the retreat. Back in the bunker, wounds bandaged with whatever passed for gauze, Elias confronted Voss. "You almost got us killed charging like that. The generals," I clicked. "Better die human than live as their puppet. You know that, boy? Or have the implants softened you?" Elias slammed his fist on the table, the cybernetic enhancements cracking the metal. "Soft, I lost her to this. May she was everything, and I pushed her into it." Silence fell. Jox touched his arm. "We all lost someone. That's why we fight. Not just to survive, to remember." Voss nodded, passing the flask. "Then let's make the bastards pay." For May, for all of them, the group tightened, motivations crystallizing, Elias's guilt fueling his defiance, Jox's hope for redemption, Voss's unyielding pride. Word spread through underground channels, other cells linking up, sharing tech hacks, coordinating strikes. Humanity's resistance wasn't just survival, it was evolution on our terms. Ingenuity born from pain. But as Elias stared at May's dog tags, he felt the rising tension. The Kaelith were adapting too, sending hunter-killers tuned to human patterns. A message crackled over the Kumza familiar voice, distorted but unmistakable. The unfinished geared up, the war deepening into something visceral, where every choice cut like a blade. The humans pressed on, unbreakable in their brokenness, upgrading not with chrome but with raw, defiant heart. The stars might belong to the aliens, but Earth's soul, that was ours to reclaim. "Elias, they're coming, please." They geared up with what they had scavenged rifles, modded with EMP bursts, neural blockers Jox had rigged from stolen Kaelith parts, and Voss's homemade grenades that packed enough punch to crack alien armor. The team slipped out under cover of night, navigating the flooded ruins of New Shanghai, where bioluminescent algae lit the water like false stars. The signal led to an old warehouse district, now a sprawling Kaelith processing hub, its spires pulsing with blue energy veins that hummed a low invasive frequency. Elias felt it in his implants, a subtle tug like fingers in his brain, whispering compliance. He gritted his teeth, focusing on the scar on his palm, the one from pulling May free years ago. Human pain as armor. They breached the perimeter with Jox's virus, slipping past drones that froze mid-patrol, their lights flickering out like dying eyes. Inside, the air reeked of chemicals and fear rows of gel pods lining the walls. Humans suspended inside, faces slack, silver threads weaving through their skin. Elias's heart hammered as they moved deeper, Voss covering the rear, muttering about how this smelled like the Hanoi traps back in his day. Then the ambush hit. Not enforcers, but something worse. Integrated humans' eyes glowing with Kaelith light, moving with unnatural precision. Elias dodged a swing from another's enhanced arm, feeling the wind of it, encountered with a point-blank EMP shot that dropped it twitching. But the real gut punch came when May stepped out from the shadows, or what was left of her. Chrome plating covered half her face, her movements too fluid, too perfect. "Elias," she said, voice laced with static. "You've come to join us." He aimed his rifle, finger trembling on the trigger. "May, fight it. Remember the Go BS against the world." Elias glanced at May, now rising, and at the pods where hundreds hung in limbo. They grappled, her strength overwhelming, his resolve cracking. "I'm sorry," he gasped, jamming his EMP rifle into her chest plate. The team dragged him out, Voss half carrying him through collapsing corridors, enforcers closing in. They disrupted the harvest, saved maybe 1,000 souls by unplugging the pods humanely in the chaos, but at what cost? It had turned betrayal into an art, seeding human traitors with promises of power whispers in the implants that turned friends into foes. The coordinates led them to the heart of hell, the Kaelith mothership orbiting Earth, a colossal behemoth of twisted alloy and pulsing energy fields that blotted out the moon like a cancerous eclipse. Elias Kane stared at the shuttle's cracked viewport as they approached under cloak. Jock's jury-rigged stealth tech humming uncertainly, the unfinished crammed into a salvaged cargo hauler that reeked of ozone and desperation. Voss clutched his bandaged shoulder, face gaunt from blood loss, muttering about how this was crazier than storming Pyongyang back in 32. While Jox's hands shook on the controls, her eyes bloodshot from nights fighting the whispers in her implants. The team was down to 8 now, ragged survivors who'd lost too much friends, vaporized in skirmishes. Families integrated into the hives, their own bodies betraying them with glitches and phantom pains. Elias felt it all pressing down, the weight of May's death still raw like an open wound. Her last words echoing in his skull, run, but running wasn't an option anymore. This was it. The suicide run to hit the Overseer's core, the glitching AI that drove the Concord's madness. If they could overload it, maybe shatter the network controlling the upgrades, give humanity a fighting chance to reclaim their minds. Docking was a nightmare. Enforcers, swarming the bay as alarms screamed, the team bursting out with everything they had, EMP grenades popping like fireworks, rifles barking in the confined space, blood and ichor splattering the walls. Elias led the charge, his enhanced legs pounding the deck. But every step burned his lattice overheating, warnings flashing in his vision like red strobes. They pushed through corridors that shifted like living things, walls rippling with defensive nanites that clawed at their suits, Voss roaring as he blasted a path with his shotgun, one arm dangling useless. Jox hacked doors on the fly, sweat pouring down her face, whispering hold on, just hold on to herself, or maybe to her brother lost in the void. But the Kaelith were everywhere, puppets and enforcers closing in, their movements a symphony of precision that mocked human chaos. One by one, the unfinished fell. Ramirez caught in a crossfire, his scream cut short. Lena pinned by a blade limb, gurgling defiance as she triggered her vest to take 3 with her. Elias felt the losses like punches, his breath ragged, vision blurring from fatigue and grief. Keep moving, he yelled, voice cracking, but inside, he was fracturing guilt over May, doubt about leading them to slaughter, the whispers creeping back, surrender, integrate, end the pain. They reached the core chamber, a vast dome throbbing with violet light. The Overseer, a crystalline monolith suspended in the center, tendrils of data snaking like veins. Jox jacked in, her body convulsing as she battled the AI's defenses, code wars raging in her mind. It's fighting me. Glitches everywhere. I can exploit them. Voss covered her, picking off incoming drones, but his ammo ran dry, forcing him to club them with his rifle butt, blood streaming from fresh wounds. Elias stood guard at the door, holding off a wave of integrated faces he knew, twisted into weapons, their eyes pleading even as they attacked. He hesitated on one, a kid no older than Jox, and paid for it. A plasma bolt grazed his side, searing flesh and circuits alike, dropping him to his knees. Pain exploded, white-hot, but he pushed up, firing blindly, screaming, not today. The chamber shook as reinforcements breached Treyas, the confessed traitor, leading them, his face a mask of serene betrayal. I told you, Kane, we can't win, he said, voice amplified by the Concord. The Overseer promised peace. Elias's world tilted. Trust shattered at the worst moment. The man they'd spared now dooming them. Voss spun, fury in his eyes, but a Windforcer's grasp caught him, lifting him like a ragdoll, bones cracking. You bastard, Voss spat, triggering a hidden charge that blew the thing apart, but the blast caught him too, hurling him against the wall in a broken heap. He coughed blood, eye dimming. Finish it, boy. For the old wars, for all of us. Elias crawled to him, hands shaking as he clasped the general's, feeling the life ebb. Don't you die on me, you old goat. Voss grinned weakly. Humans, we break. But we... His words trailed off, gone. Rage boiled over, Elias rising despite the agony, charging Reyes with bare hands, tackling him amid the chaos. They grappled fists in fury, Elias's enhancements giving him edge but pain slowing him. Why? He growled. Pinning Reyes. For what? Reyes's eyes flickered human regret breaking through. They have my family. I had no choice. A shot rang out. Reyes slumped self-inflicted, his pistol dropping. But the damage was done. The chamber flooded with enforcers. Jox screaming as the AI latched onto her mind, pulling her deeper. Elias, it's too strong, overriding me. She clawed at her ports, blood under nails, body arching in torment. Elias fought through the horde, enforcers slashing at him, his skin tearing, blood mixing with synthetic fluid. He reached her, yanking the jack, but she convulsed, eyes rolling back. Jox, be with me, her voice small. "It hurts. Make it stop." The overseer pulsed triumphantly, its voice booming. "Resistance is inefficiency. Submit." Elias slumped beside her, the last unfinished, body erect, limbs failing, vision fading, spirit screaming against the void. Everything lost, May Voss, the team, maybe Jocks too. The whispers swelled, promising relief, but he clung to the scar on his palm, the human ache that defined him. Surrounded, weapons gone, he stared at the core, nothing left but defiance. "You think you've won?" he whispered, voice hoarse. "Humans don't submit. We burn it all down." As the enforcers closed in, Jock stirred weakly, her hand finding his final spark. The breaking point hit, the absolute worst, alone in the enemy's heart, broken but unbowed. Something had to change now, or humanity would fade into the stars forever. As enforcers closed in like shadows swallowing light, Elias Kane knelt beside Jocks in the throbbing heart of the Kaelith mothership, the overseer's crystalline core pulsing mockingly above them, its violet glow casting eerie reflections on the blood-smeared deck. Jocks's body trembled, her neural ports smoking from the aborted hack. Whispers of the AI still echoing in her whimpers. "It's in me. Make it stop, Elias." His body, a tapestry of burns and failing circuits, gripped her hand, feeling the last threads of hope unravel. Voss dead. The team gone. Reyes's betrayal a fresh scar on his soul. He stared up at the monolith, defiance flickering like a dying ember. "Come on, you glitchy bastard," he muttered, voice raw. "Finish it." But the overseer didn't strike. Instead, its voice boomed, not in triumph, but something closer to desperation. "Anomaly detected. Human variable exceeds parameters. Recalibrating." The chamber shuddered, tendrils of data whipping wildly as if in panic. Elias frowned, adrenaline sharpening his thoughts. "What the hell?" Jocks gasped, her eyes snapping open, not glowing with Concord light, but clear, human, fierce. "Elias, I saw it. In the code. It's not conquering us, it's afraid." The twist hit like a supernova. The Kaelith weren't invaders, uplifting lesser species. They were refugees, fleeing a cosmic horror they'd awakened eons ago, a devouring entropy wave that consumed stars, and humanity was their last-ditch firewall. The upgrades, not control, but a desperate inoculation, overriding minds to create a hybrid army. Because pure humans were too unpredictable, too chaotic to integrate safely. But that chaos was the key, the very glitch the overseer feared. Jocks bolted upright, fingers flying to a nearby console. Her hack not failed but evolved, the AI's defenses cracking under the weight of her improvised code. "They found Earth by accident," she explained breathlessly, pulling up holographic archives that spilled secrets like blood from a wound. "Scans showed our history wars, extinctions, comebacks. We survive everything. They thought they could harness it, but our defiance, it's viral. It corrupts their perfection." Elias's mind reeled, recontextualizing everything. The subtle hesitations in Kaelith diplomats, the rushed phases of integration, May's final plea, not a trap, but a warning. Fear gripped him not of death, but of the scale. So we're their weapon, and they broke us to wield us, all mixed with regret. Visions of lost friends flashing had May known, deep down. Vengeance surged next, hot and human. "Then let's show them what happens when you poke the bear." The overseer wailed digitally, its form fracturing as Jocks's virus spread, exploiting the glitches born from human ingenuity. Alarms blared shipwide, enforcers freezing mid-stride, their biomechanical bodies seizing as the network rebelled, a rebellion sparked by the very chaos they tried to suppress. Elias staggered to his feet, ripping a tendril from the core, feeling the power surge through his implants, not as control, but amplification. His wounds knit partially, strength returning in waves, but it was the fire in his chest that burned brightest. Down on Earth, resistance cells felt the shift implants glitching not to overwrite, but to enhance on human terms, whispers turning to roars of rebellion. In Berlin, hackers turned hives against their masters. In Iowa, farmers overclocked drones into kamikaze swarms. In the flooded Miami coasts, divers unleashed EMP tsunamis from submerged relics. The Kaelith Armada faltered, ships listing as internal systems betrayed them. Crusoe's few organic ascended left panicking in voices that cracked with terror. The humans, they're awakening the void. One broadcast screamed before static claimed it. Elias and Jocks fought back-to-back now, her directing digital strikes while he wielded a salvaged plasma cutter like a sword, carving through puppets that crumpled not in obedience, but confusion. They were running from something worse. Jocks yelled over the din, dodging a flailing enforcer, a force that eats order, and where the antidote messy, resilient, unbreakable. Hope bloomed amid the chaos. Elias thinking of May with a pang of regret, but also gratitude. Her death had forged this moment. Then let's be dangerous, he growled, slamming the cutter into the core space, sparks flying as the monolith cracked. The Overseer's plea echoed mercy. We sought alliance, but Elias's response was pure human defiance. Alliance? You mean slavery? Time for the alien downfall. The chamber exploded in light, the AI's core overloading, sending shockwaves through the fleet. Ships tore apart from within, hybrid crews turning on pure Kaelith in mutiny, the integrated reclaiming their minds in a cascade of awakenings. Jocks laughed, wild and free, as they raced for an escape pod, the mothership groaning around them. We weren't breaking, we were upgrading the universe's rules. Elias nodded, awe tempering his vengeance. The stars outside twisting as the entropy wave drawn by the disruption loomed on sensors, a dark hunger the Kaelith had fled. As the pod jettisoned into the void, Earth below igniting with renewed fire cities, reclaiming the night, survivors cheering in bunkers Elias, clenched May's dog tags, hope overriding fear. The twist had made them not just survivors, but the galaxy's reckoning, dangerous in their humanity, ready to burn bright against the dark. The fuck yeah echoed in every heartbeat. The war not over, but ours to win. Debris blooming into the void as the Overseer S-Core finally shattered under the weight of Jock's S-Viral chaos. We heard your call. The hives are falling, people are waking up, fighting from inside. But the Kaelith didn't go quietly. Their pure ascended forms, liquid chrome horrors unshackled from the AI, launched a desperate counter-assault, beaming down two key sites, blades whipping through air thick with sand and fury. Elias charged into the fray, his lattice surging not with Concord precision but raw human rage, punching through an enforcer's chest plate, feeling the I-core spray as he roared May's name like a battle cry. Jocks coordinated from a makeshift console, her hacks spreading like wildfire, turning the Entropy Wave S approach to their advantage, channeling its chaotic energy through repurposed Kaelith relays to disrupt enemy formations, the Void's hunger gnawing at the invaders' order while sparing humanity's mess. Losses mounted. Rios fell shielding a child, her last words a defiant laugh. A dozen others vaporized in plasma crossfire. Elias took a hit to the chest, circuits sparking, blood mixing with dust. but he pushed on, vision tunneling to the lead ascended a towering figure that had once been the diplomat who'd promised peace, now a monstrosity of fear and failure. "You were supposed to be our salvation," it wailed, voice distorting as the wave closed in. Elias, staggering, dog tags clutched in one fist, spat back, "We don't need saving. We save ourselves." The clash was brutal, no elegant duel but a gritty brawl. Elias dodging blades with enhanced reflexes honed by years of human wars, countering with improvised weapons, a shard of debris as a spear his own failing arm ripped free and swung like a club. The ascended slashed deep, pain exploding, but Elias grappled close, jamming Voss's old flask now rigged as an explosive end to its core. For May, for Voss, for all of us. The blast erupted, hurling them apart, the ascended dissolving in a scream of light as the entropy wave brushed the fleet, consuming the ordered ships. In swirls of nothingness while human chaos acted as a repellent, the wave recoiling like oil from water. Jox pulled Elias from the rubble, her hands steady now, the upgrades fully hers evolved, not imposed. "It's over," she said, as skies cleared. Remaining Kaelith vessels fleeing into the stars, their empires shattered by the species they'd underestimated. Cities worldwide cheered, hives opening as the awakened emerged, blinking in the sun, minds their own again. Elias collapsed against a rock, wounds critical, but peace washing over him, the main conflict resolved not with magic, but sacrifice and sweat. Humanity ascending on their terms, destroying the threat, while claiming the tech as tools, not chains. Jox knelt beside him, tears cutting tracks in the dust. "You changed the game, Elias, we all did." He smiled faintly, handing her maze tags. "Keep roaring, kid. The universe is listening now." As medics arrived, carried on winds of victory, Elias closed his eyes. The roar of humanity echoing eternal, not a end, but a beginning, with room for one last breath of hard-won hope. Years passed, but the scars never fully faded. They just became part of the landscape, like the craters from old orbital strikes, now blooming with green reclamation vines or the chrome husks of Kaelith. Enforcers turned into playground slides for kids who'd never known the fear of integration. Elias Kane lived long enough to see the first sunrise over a rebuilt New Shanghai, the skyline no longer a crown of alien alloy but a chaotic human mess of glass, steel, reclaimed brick, and solar sails flapping like defiant flags. He didn't walk anymore. The lattice had finally given out after one last push in the goby, leaving him in a chair that hummed softly with jury-rigged power cells. Jox pushed him along the bund promenade most mornings. Her own implants now a quiet augmentation she controlled completely, no whispers, no overrides, just tools she'd earned through blood and code. She'd become the architect of the new lattice, a voluntary framework that let people enhance without losing themselves. A middle finger to the Concord's perfection. "Human evolution on our terms," she'd say with that same wild grin she'd worn the night the mothership died. The entropy wave never reached Earth. The moment the overseer shattered, the wave recoiled, as if the universe itself recognized that chaos wasn't prey, it was poison to order-hungry. Scientists still debated why. Some said humanity as unpredictable spirit created interference patterns the wave couldn't process. Others claimed we'd simply scared it off, the way a cornered animal's roar can make a predator think twice. Whatever the truth, the galaxy took notice. Kaelith remnants scattered to the edges, their empire a ghost story told in hushed tones. Other species watched from afar, some sent cautious probes, others outright fled when they heard the name Soul. Earth became the myth, the rock where the perfect broke against the stubborn, where defiance rewrote physics and turned fear into legend. Elias spent his days in a small apartment overlooking the river, surrounded by mementos he refused to upgrade away. May's dog tags hung on a nail by the window, catching the light every dawn. Voss's flask empty now, but polished sat on the shelf beside a photo of the old General Midlaff, arm around Ilias's shoulders in some forgotten bunker. Jox visited often, bringing news of the world, new colonies springing up on Mars and Titan, built with hybrid tech that blended Kaelith elegance with human grit. Schools teaching kids the history not as tragedy but as proof that humans don't break. We upgrade, we adapt, we roar back. One evening, as the city lights flickered on like scattered stars, Jox sat with him on the balcony, a bottle of real whiskey between them smuggled from a distillery in the reclaimed Midwest. "You ever wonder what May would think of all this?" she asked quietly. Elias stared at the water, the reflections dancing like memories. She'd laugh. "Call us idiots for taking so long to figure out we were the dangerous ones all along." Then she'd grab a rifle and say, "Let's go break something else." Jox chuckled, but her eyes were wet. "I miss them. Every damn day." "Me too," Elias said, voice rough. "But they're in the cities. The kids running through the old hives like their playgrounds. The way we rebuilt without forgetting the cost. That's their legacy. Ours too, he paused, feeling the weight of years settle gentle for once. We didn't ascend to some perfect collective. We didn't leave Earth behind. We stayed. We fought. We chose messy, beautiful, broken humanity over sterile order, and that choice, it saved everything. Jox leaned her head on his shoulder, the same way she'd done after the mothership fell. We're still upgrading, Elias, just slower, wiser. He nodded, the city's heartbeat thrumming through the air. Music, laughter, arguments, life in all its loud and perfect glory. The Sci-Fi redemption wasn't in becoming gods. It was in remembering we were enough as we were, flaws and fury and all. When Elias finally passed, years later, it wasn't in a hospital pod or under alien lights. It was on that same balcony at dawn, Jox holding his hand, the sun rising over a world that had learned its lesson. Humanity docent needs saving, we re the ones who save. His last words were simple, almost a whisper. Keep roaring, kid. They buried him in the Gobi, under the same sky where he'd lost his leg and found his spine. A small marker reading only, Elias Kane Hay didn't break. The unfinished became a symbol, then a movement, then just the way things were, done resilient, inventive, fiercely human. Jox lived to see starships launch with names like May's, Hope, and Voss's Fire, carrying colonists to new worlds not as conquerors or refugees, but as heirs to a legacy of alien resistance turned triumph. And somewhere, in the quiet between stars, the universe listened a little closer when humans spoke, because it had learned, underestimate them at your peril. The story closed not with fireworks, but with the steady, stubborn pulse of a species that chose to stay human, to feel the pain and the joy, to build from the ashes and laugh in the face of perfection. Hope won, not because it was easy, but because humans made it inevitable. Did this story hit you as hard as it hit us? What would you do in humanity's final hour? Drop your ideas for the next HFY story below.